Dear children, now we came to the second lesson that comes under the competency level 1.4. Investigate the process of digestion in human. As I have mentioned earlier, this is the continuation of the very same lesson. So let's see the learning outcomes. Now in the first lesson, you should be able to cover up these two learning outcomes. Now in this second lesson, we wanted to cover up, you should be able to describe the function of the large intestine and the rectum and the state of role of liver, pancreas and salivary glands, and list the end products of digestion of carbohydrates, proteins and related enzymes. These are the learning outcomes that you will achieve at the end of this lesson. Now let's proceed to the lesson 2. We will start from the absorption, that is the third phase of the digestion. Before we talked about the absorption, we have to look at the end products of the digestion. Carbohydrates turns to glucose, fructose and galactose. Proteins turns to amino acids. Lipids turns to fatty acid and glycerol. Now you know these three, carbohydrate, protein and lipids, are complex biomolecules, and glucose, fructose, galactose, amino acid, fatty acid and glycerols are the simplest absorbable forms of these complex forms. Vitamins and minerals and drugs do not undergo the absorption process. They just straight away absorb to the bloodstream without digestion. These are the places of absorption: stomach, small intestine and large intestine. Let's see what will absorb in the stomach. Water, glucose, minerals and harmful alcohols. Here I mention harmful alcohol are the alcohol which contains high percentage of alcohol. That means the commonly we call kasippu, arak, beer, whiskey like alcohols. All these things absorb to the bloodstream in the stomach. What will absorb in the intestine? As mentioned in the first video, small intestine is the main main part of the digestive system to do the digestion as well as the absorption. They are fatty acids and glycerol, amino acids and glucose get into the bloodstream or absorbed to the body. And this small intestine is a very special structure. It adapts this process very well. Let's see how it is adapt to this process. It is a very long tube. Because of this length, I have mentioned it as 7 meters long. It provides more time to the food will remain in this long tube and move very slowly. Because of this slow movement and waiting or being in the tube longer period of time, what will happen? The digested food get absorbed. And it is there are circular folds in the inner wall. This increases the surface area, and due to this, food particles move slowly through it. And the presence of finger-like projections called villi. Here this is the structure of a villi. There you can see this is the very thin epithelium, 1 cell thickness epithelium in a villi. This kind of projections, 1,000,000,000 number of projections in the small intestine. So one cell thick increase the diffusion rate, and within it microvilli present. This microvilli again increase the surface area for absorption. And you can see this is covered with blood capillaries. Because of this highly vascularized nature, increase the absorption of glucose and amino acid. They are inside the villi. You can see another vessel, tiny lymphatic vessel. This lymphatic vessel, named as the lacteal, this absorbs the fatty acids and glycerol. Now remember, the end products of carbohydrates and proteins get into the bloodstream directly, and the lipids, by end products of the lipids, that is fatty acid and glycerol, into the lacteal. But this structure also inside the villi. Villi is present in the small intestine wall. So all three types of food absorbed in the small intestine very effectively. So here, as I explained, villi are highly vascularized, that means high blood supply, and the presence of lacteals in the villi facilitate the absorption of fatty acid, glycerol, and the lipid soluble vitamins such as vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. All these are absorbed in the small intestine. So far we didn't talk about the large intestine. Now, so far the food, digested food, also didn't come to the large intestine. So all this digestion and absorption happens within the small intestine, and now the small intestine enters to the large intestine. This place is called caecum. It starts from caecum and ends with anus. This broad tube is the large intestine. The length of this large intestine is about 1.5 meter long. What is absorbed within the large intestine? Mainly water. When the foodstuff, now actually that foodstuff do not contain much nutrient. So once it entered to this large intestine, mainly there is undigested cellulose and some amount of water. When water is absorbed, what will happen? This watery food becomes semi-solid and form fecal matter. This fecal matter is yellow in color due to the bile pigment and mucus, undigested food, and presence of microorganisms, mainly E. coli bacteria. That now we cannot say it is as chyme or any food, or that is fecal matter, because no nutrients there. Comes to this caecum and moves slowly through the large intestine and come to this rectum, and due to the pressure happens in the large intestine, passes as the stool through the anus. So that is the end of the food that you taken into your mouth, and that is the end. So now we came to the end of the lesson, of the second lesson. Before I wind up, I would like to give a special thanks to Mr. J.D. Subasinghe, retired Project Officer Science, NIT Sri Lanka. Thank you all of you for watching this video. I hope you have gained some some idea about this digestion and the absorption. Hope to meet you with the last video, that is third lesson.